Should be going live. I'll let you know in a second here.
Mm-hmm. You want to share it to my page?
Yes. All right, I'll go ahead and get ready. Just hold on one moment. Let me share this. All right. Share. All right. Well, welcome all. We are hosting our next community conversations with current CCSD board member, Mr. Kevin Hollinshed. And tonight's topic will be his tenure as a current CCSD board member, as well as his re-election bid amidst the very tumultuous times of COVID-19. Welcome, Mr. Hollinshed. How are you doing?
Great. Nice to see you again, AJ.
So let's jump right into it. How has the last 4 years been for you as a CCSD board member?
It was a great learning experience. To be honest with you, learn the personalities of the board members. Some arrogant, some are followers, but they have their own agenda set. Now, you know, my police days and investigation, I didn't put too much into it, but they either were getting directions from some outside entities or from political influence. But it was interesting because when I first got on the board, they were loving my ideals. When I began to think for myself, then they began to start hating me. And then when I wouldn't agree to what they had going on, then I became the public enemy. I'll tell you this. I have had friends on both sides of the fence, Republican and Democrat. My family are Democratic roots. My father was one of the first Democratic leaders in North Charleston, along with Arnold LeCue and others back in the day. And but my father and Herbert Fielding also taught me how to work across the aisle. And I had friends like Chip Limehouse and others. And I learned just from people like Chip Limehouse, I got to meet Lynn Bennett. Now, not gonna tell you we were a slam dunk, but we had a mutual respect. But for a couple of years, Lynn Bennett was not liking me because the board members kept telling her that I was going to jail and I was a crook. And after she began, you can ask her this yourself, after she began to realize they were lying to her, now she's and not only endorsed me, but she talks about how unsatisfactory she is with the current board. That is why they moved to make single member district. They realized the influence of outside interference into the board's normal day operation.
Okay, that brings up a very interesting segue for us, Kevin. So you definitely have been one of the most visible board members currently during your entire tenure. And over that time, there have been some very controversial decisions that have been made by the board. Can you tell us how the environment in the decision-making process as a board is pre-COVID and now?
They have the meeting before they get to myself and Chris Collins. They have already prearranged or mapped out what they want to do. Just like when they came up with I think there was one time that they had me in the meeting, so-called talking about mission critical and those public hearings. And they had Charleston Rise leader in there. I can't think of the other organization. You know it, Cradle to Career, and a few other people at the table. And I felt like the odd man out, but they thought I was going to go along with everything, and I didn't. So then I became strike two. And I mean, two strikes against me. I just felt like it was fabricated. When I went to the meetings and I didn't see the core people in the community that I would want to see in the room on inputs, the rooms were stacked against the community. And I just thought it was a sham.
When you say it was stacked against the community, what do you mean when you say that?
Well, they had their employees in there. They had Charleston Rise people in there. They just had Pacific people in there that was on their team to push forth the agenda. I can tell you, when we went to North Charleston, it was more CCSD employees in there than it was North Charleston High School parents or people from the community. So everything was staged. I mean, this is the organization that believes in manufacturing or creating ideals or outlooks to make people think that they're doing the right thing.
So, as one of the two, I guess you could say three incumbents that's running this year, and you're running to represent North Charleston District 4, which is the largest constituent district in CCSD and has the most schools. What are some of the specific issues that you've tackled in your tenure from 2016, and what will be your agenda moving forward if you are reelected?
Well, I was able to bring community leaders, stakeholders together. One, to visit Atlanta, Georgia, to see Title I schools, where Atlanta just got through reshaping how they were dealing with public input. Their former superintendent did a grassroots effort with community stakeholders and community liaisons within the school to give the parent more input. Their wraparound services were all awesome. The three schools we visited was Hollinshed Academy, it was a elementary middle school. Best Academy for Boys was an all boys school. And then there was Coretta Scott King Academy, which is the all girls school, which was featured on Good Morning America of graduating 100% young ladies. So after that, I came back to Charleston and we had a summit and brought folks from the Southeast end, from Atlanta and other areas to talk about education and the plight of Title I students. I think only one CCSD employee showed up, but the room was full with stakeholders from around the county. So I was able to bring the awareness to the community, which they didn't want to do. If I'm reelected, I'm hoping to look at three of the schools that Atlanta is doing to bring into our urban areas, even like in Hollywood and McLennanville. You know, the bulk of African Americans live in North Charleston, but we have got to get down to hiring people that look like us, that talk like us, to educate us. We had that in the past, and we yield a lot of great products. Burke High School, for an example, my two oldest children graduated from there. Burke didn't give you a degree. Burke worked you. My daughter graduated from Burke and went on to South Carolina State, so did my son Kevin Jr. And Gabrielle was in the band, and Kevin Jr. was too. But the academic structure of South Carolina State was rigorous. As a parent, I had to tell my son about the pitfalls of college because I had to go through that. Being a young African American male, my daughter, she was a different entity. She just plowed away. So I'm a father of three. My youngest one attends Benedict College right now, and he's on academic scholarship. But I want the opportunity for everybody, not just to go to college, but to be able to get into a career if they want and be successful. I watched for 4 years. They talk about it, but I have not seen any action. We have uh, the so-called programs now across the street from North Charleston High, but that's 2 years and it's not even operating now. COVID's in place, and so how are we going to move children forward? We have this situation now that we had 9 failing schools, and now with the COVID in place, the achievement gap is going to get even larger. So I want to be able to stick around to when we get a handle on this and be able to bring families some sort of strength in education. I would say this to you, AJ, and I know you got to get to your next question. You live in Socorro, Cherokee area, and you've seen the economic plight to that area. Do you honestly think a child, when a parent is struggling in the household to keep the light bills on, or to keep the rent up in the apartment, or keep food on the table, that child is able to learn effectively? No, that child is stressed out with that parent. So we have to make sure that we have stronger wraparound services. We have billionaires playing in education right now, but those are the basic common needs that plighted community needs to strengthen itself. But they want to be able to work on top down, and that's not going to fix the problem.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hollinshed, for that response. And let's segue into the discussion regarding wraparound services, which has been something that's been brought up by the other candidates that I've interviewed. As a sitting board member, do you feel that CCSD has provided adequate wraparound services, or do those services exist? Or would that be something that you would take on as a challenge in your second term as a board member?
That would be something I would take on. It needs to be a department for that that coordinates human resource, not human resources, but the humanities department of the state. It also with DSS and human services, and oh gosh, the mental health agencies to provide whatever necessary tools to help that family move forward. Now, in one case, Erica Taylor is the one head engine for that for the district right now. She does the best she can, but that needs to be broadened with people that are experienced in that area. Erica assisted me a couple of times when parents were in need, and she was able to provide like hotel rooms and stuff. But we need to get broader perspectives. I think there needs to be a board foundation that these so-called billionaires, if they want to give money, you give to that, and then we'll help the family that's in need, not play with the children. Um, so that would be something I would tackle, and I would want to try to get situated.
Okay. As a current sitting board member for District 4 North Charleston, you have the distinct privilege or responsibility of overseeing um, a constituent district that has the highest performing schools and the lowest performing, and such a tremendous gap in between. What has been your, I guess, approach during your current tenure, and what will be your approach should you be reelected to address that achievement gap that so many have talked about? And what are some of the issues you see in the schools specific to North Charleston?
Well, there's an unbalance in the schools because the highest ranking schools are School of the Arts and Academic Magnet, which they're not even integrated to a point that I can say that we have access to that. I know in conversations with the district, they were coming up with schemes to try to integrate the schools. But I think, to be honest with you, and this has been my discussion during this, what makes you think African Americans want to go to those schools? They're more concerned about having equal or equitable schools in their community. So we need to bring them comfortable within their environment. Everybody's on this kit of integration, diversity, but I just think that's a tool of distraction and this and deceit of our people. It doesn't take much to put extra resources into Shakur Elementary, uh, Morningside, you name it, to help. And it's not going to be a quick fix overnight, but to help bring those schools online. The feeder pattern into the North Charleston High School install is broken down to where the kids are not learning on that pattern to make them successful into the school. So when they get to high school, they got to play catch up. So we have to work to strengthen that. Now, one of the things I will tell you, Superintendent did, I agree and disagree. I agree with her on the early program. I think she took it from Atlanta or one of those areas, but I didn't like the closing of Mary Ford because the parents in Mary Ford were saying, we and the Shakur kids are two different type people. And I can respect that. We have to learn to respect African Americans and their opinion. And we just bulldozed and did not recognize that. I'm more for bringing respect to my people, to listen to them and how they feel.
Okay, and here's a good segue into another issue that impacts the African American community in particular, and that is the proposed acceleration zone that was brought forth last calendar year, I believe in September and whatnot. And that's where they're supposedly going to take 13 of the, as they termed them, failing schools, struggling schools, and open them up to third party outside operators. As you know, there were many in the community, myself included, that felt as though the district was tone deaf in making this proposal, and that it was not going to yield the results that they said and did not have true community buy-in. So I would love to hear your take on what it was like on the other side as a board member dealing with that particular proposal.
Well, again, I'm outgun on votes, but they were excited about the College of Charleston applying, but the College of Charleston students do miserably in Title I schools, but they wanted to assign one there, and then they wanted to assign a school in Virginia. I think it was University of Virginia. I'm not sure. But these people never had any practical experience or had any history of turning these schools around. But the other thing that I didn't like, none of them looked like me. Not a darn soul looked like me. So you want to go into an urban area and try to turn schools around, and the kids are not identifying with who the people are. I wasn't for it. I also learned from some retired district employees years ago that this was tried before, but they changed the name, but it failed. It failed. So, I feel like the superintendent is just like pulling rabbits out of a hat. She's desperate to try to she's great at distractions. She's excellent at it. And so if you're not watching yourself, and I use the analogy of when she walks away, you need to check your wallet because that's just how good she is. But I have gained to understand her language. And I deem sometimes to say it's very racist because she wants to plug in Black folks when she wants to plug them in, and the people who are loyal to her, but they're not the people to get the job done. And that makes African Americans even more matter, because then I've been on this earth 59 years. I can tell you times when I've seen Black folks that look like me. They say they skin folk ain't kin folk. They, they, they ain't got no way in form or fashion, um, a way to try to help us. They're not trying to do that. They're just trying to get paid. One time, the superintendent hired Craig Askews, and Craig, it was kind of leery about it at first, but Craig got in there and he tried to change some things for African Americans. They jacked them up, brought them in personnel. He went from a contract for a year to a 6-month contract and kick out the door. And I just thought that was awful. And he was trying to change things in the construction side and in education. And they said he stepped on the wrong toes. So they don't want the right people in there doing the right thing. They're just trying to buy time.
So I think now we also need to touch on something that has plagued the district and you spoke to in your answers, and that is the matter of race and inequity. Um, COVID-19 has shown us uh, just how glaring some of the disparities were, and now those disparities have become amplified. And nowhere is this more present than in education. From your side as a board member, how do you feel the district handles matters of race and racial inequity and inequality?
Maybe a C, C minus. They're more reactive. They're not aggressively proactive. Just look at the situation at um, oh gosh, I'm getting old. The school on on oh, not Reynolds, Remount Road, Tilly Dunstan School, Dunstan. The kids that got molested there, even when we inherited it, but there were times when they could have handled the situation and they just covered it up. So I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. Eventually, they're gonna have to settle, but because they were Black kids who make the accusation, they stretch it out. I just thought that was terrible. I just thought it was so terrible and disrespectful. Um, Nothing about the guy accused, but I'm just talking about the child, the victim. And I just feel like we could have done a better job. I seen a situation, being on the board where the young lady got pushed out of Burke High School, and she was accused of having an inappropriate relationship with students, and come to find out she didn't. She let a kid, I think, let him use a car, and which was wrong. And she got kicked out, and she went to a couple of other counties and doing fairly well. But because the person is Black, we give them the death sentence. And I just think that we just need to have more respect, and I just want to change that. I want to change how they stereotype us.
All right. Another good segue. Um, this year's school board race has probably been one of the most contentious school board races in recent times. I think that on the local level, it has garnered more attention than probably some of the other races. I think you guys as candidates have probably gotten more face time than a lot of other candidates as well. But I think in the case of yourself and Mr. Chris Collins, some of that attention came in the form of the negative attack ad that was run by the Coalition for Kids a while back, in which some very disparaging things uh, was said about both you and Reverend Collins. Would you like to speak to one, what went through your mind when you first learned of that ad, and what has taken place since then?
Well, I kind of chuckled and I just thought that we were back in the 60s when, and I'm being, I love my white friends. I got good white people that are good people and they're good friends. But I thought back in the 60s and the 70s when the cliche word used cracker to describe a redneck person. And I thought Josh Bell was just fits that title full force. And the billionaire who paid for the commercials is the same way. Um, Nobody said anything about Chris Frazier when he was on the board and he messed up the $18 million. Cindy Bond Coach or anybody else like that, but they had to go digging into something that happened 15 years ago, which I felt was a low blow. One, they twisted it around. Two, um, it had happened during a time when I lost the love of my life, and I was trying to um, wheel my family around and raise three children on my own, and I couldn't tell you what happened back then because I was coming and going. So I just thought that was so nasty. They're not from Charleston, so they don't know me. But I have been hearing accolades from my community, white and black, that was a nasty thing to do. How could these individuals want to, or they're fighting to be the godfather of Title I schools, and they can't respect black people? That's the one thing, and I'll never get over that. I mean, I know we're going to have legal action when this is over from my attorney. I can't talk about where he's going to go with it, but you'll hear. Um, but the thing about it is, I just thought of the word cracker. I was like, God, dog. It was like you just saw the racist piece of. I only saw the commercial one time, and I saw the darkening image of me in the whole 9 yards, and I just said, it is so good God had changed me. If it had been in my police days, you probably would have had me locked up in jail because I was just saying that was so disrespectful. So disrespectful.
So there were many in the community, in full transparency, myself included, that felt similar to you. Um, let's talk about the toll that it took, not just on you, but perhaps on your family, knowing that this was something that was circulating.
Well, my daughter called me because my 6-year-old granddaughter heard the audio in the car going to school early one morning. And at 6 years old, she was like, realized it was an attack against her granddaddy. And she became frantic and upset. I had to calm my daughter down because I'm like, you got to understand who these people are. She wanted to confront them. I said, no, no, no. There were a lot of support people, wraparound good people in the community that talked to her and said, no, just let your daddy ride this one out. I had a host of friends call. I can tell you, I never had a bad negative call about the situation. Everybody was wrapped around, even from my Republican white friends, even was in support. They just thought it was awful. So, I thank Councilman Teddy Pryor, good family friend, Marvin Pendarvis, Representative David Mack, who called a press conference to address the issue because they saw it as a blatant insult to the community. Um, you know, if you want race relationships to work, you have to listen to African Americans. You can't buy them, like the Coalition for Kids folks doing. You have to buy people that have stake in our community and want to work to change things. You can't, whenever you take something, my daddy said this a long time ago, my mother taught me after he died, you can't take favors like that. They come with a cost. And I say to those two candidates, if they're lucky to win, you owe the devil.
Thank you, Mr. Hollinshed. I do appreciate you sharing that. So my next questions, these two are directed specifically at you. outside of the coalition attacks, the rigors of what, again, probably has been one of the most contentious local races in quite some time. How are you doing?
Um, I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had major surgery. I dropped some 83 pounds. Uh, I have good days and bad days. Learn to eat again. Um, but my concern is still, I just say I'd say, oh, I'm tired. Leave me alone. But my mind still goes on. How did we get down this road with the district? We have a superintendent that's been there 5 years, and we had 8 chief academic officers. 8. Anywhere else, a person been fired. You want to know why the achievement gap is failing when you had 8 different chief academic officers. Um, and the achievement gap has gotten worse before the pandemic. So that tells you the person is not effective or not able to handle a large district like this. God rest his soul. I won't call his name, but one of my friends told me they were looking at our superintendent. She applied to go to Richland County 2 before she ever came here. And they already knew her track record. And them boys didn't even interview her. And she withdrew her name. And they told me, they said, y'all got hell on your hands in Charleston. And I don't mind speaking on it, but it's the truth. That's what he told me. He's deceased now. But he was on the board at that time. And I just want a superintendent that's fair. Fair-minded, it doesn't have to be black or white, but just fair-minded to the different plateaus that we have in Charleston as far as pockets. Um, I understand right across the street from me and in your neighborhood, it's gotten gentrified and it probably ain't stopped. But the thing about it is we don't have to push African Americans out. We still need to educate them while they're here.
That
So
that
that plagues me.
that segues in, and I apologize. I gotta throw this one question in before I get to the last one. You talked about the gentrification issue. Um, Anyone that's here now or has been here definitely for any length of time has definitely seen the changes in Charleston, um, with the cost of housing, uh, forcing many individuals to move, and rethink what their living patterns would be. How do you think all of that impacts the district being able to truly provide quality education to all schools?
Well, the district is the leading force, the largest governmental entity in Charleston County. We can go sit down with the city of North Charleston, the city of Charleston, and work on an affordable housing piece that's equitable to parents. We can work with financial institutions and do educational seminars to make sure parents are able to buy affordable homes and keep them in them. But that requires work, and they don't want to work. So those are the things that I'd like to see done um, in the near future. I talked to people like Councilman Pryor, Representative Mack, Marvin Pendarvis, and they all agree and want to work toward that. And to be honest, Representative Sandy Sanders led the way in discussions with African American banks to even bring them to the Low Country and to provide that kind of services.
All right. Well, thank you. So, final question for you, Mr. Hollinshed. What would be the one thing you would like to leave our viewers and those who will watch this video with regarding why you should be reelected for a second term for CCSD School Board?
Don't let the smooth face fool you. I'm a hard worker. I'm gonna be loyal to my community, everybody, white and black. I pick up the phone and I have a discussion with you, and I do try to get back with you as fast as possible. I don't mind if it's going in the room full of abused parents as just as much as it's going into my neighborhood and meeting with parents. The only way I'm going to learn to improve things is to learn from everybody. So um, I'm an equal access board member. So you know how to reach me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hollinshed. We do appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. You are 2 days away from the big day. We wish you all the best of luck and hope that regardless of the turnout or the outcome, you take some time for yourself.
Thank you.
And this has been the latest community conversation with current board member Kevin Hollinshed, representing District 4, North Charleston. Thank you guys for tuning in, and you have a good night.